What if the most terrifying thing about the gods was not their power to destroy, but their ability to punish without end? Not a punishment measured in years, nor in lifetimes, but in something far more unsettling. Eternity stretched into repetition, into suffering that does not evolve, does not conclude, and does not forgive. Deep beneath the world of the living, below even the realm of the dead, lies Tartarus, a place often described as a prison, yet in truth it is something far more precise, a system, not of justice, but of permanence, not of correction, but of endurance. In most tellings, Tartarus is introduced as a place where the wicked are sent, where those who defy the gods are punished for their transgressions, and where balance is restored through suffering. But this framing quietly avoids a more uncomfortable question: what kind of justice requires infinity? Because the punishments within Tartarus are not designed to end. They are designed to continue. And in that continuation, they reveal something not about human failure, but about divine perspective, one that does not measure consequence the way mortals do, and perhaps does not measure it at all. Consider Sisyphus, endlessly pushing a massive stone up a mountain, only to watch it fall back down just before reaching the summit. This is not merely physical labor. It is the denial of completion. Every attempt contains within it the certainty of failure, and yet the effort must continue. There is no variation, no escalation, no relief, only repetition. Over time, the punishment transforms from pain into something more abstract, the erosion of meaning. Because what is effort without outcome? What is persistence when it is guaranteed to achieve nothing? Sisyphus is not simply being punished. He is being placed inside a system where purpose itself is removed, leaving behind only the act of continuing. A different form of torment appears in the story of Tantalus, who stands in a pool of water that recedes whenever he attempts to drink, beneath branches of fruit that withdraw whenever he reaches for them. Unlike Sisyphus, whose struggle is defined by repetition, Tantalus is defined by proximity. Fulfillment is always within reach, always visible, always almost attainable, but never realized. The punishment here is not exhaustion, but anticipation without resolution. It is the constant renewal of hope followed by its immediate removal. Over time, the body suffers, but the mind suffers more, trapped in a cycle where desire cannot fade because it is continuously reawakened. This is not deprivation alone. It is the manipulation of expectation, a design that ensures longing never dies. Then there is Ixion, whose punishment takes the form of endless motion, bound to a wheel of fire that spins without pause. Unlike Sisyphus, who struggles against gravity, or Tantalus, who reaches toward what retreats, Ixion is denied even the illusion of control. He does not act, he is carried. The movement is constant, but it is not chosen, and within that motion there is no direction, no progress, no escape. It is a different kind of eternity, one where the self is no longer defined by effort or desire, but by submission to a force that does not stop. The fire does not consume him, the wheel does not break, and time does not intervene. Everything remains, exactly as it is, forever. When these punishments are placed side by side, a pattern emerges that goes beyond individual stories. Each one isolates a different aspect of human experience, effort, desire, and control, and removes its resolution. Sisyphus is denied completion, Tantalus is denied fulfillment, and Ixion is denied agency. Together, they form a system in which suffering is not random, but structured, carefully designed to persist without transformation. And this is where the philosophical weight of Tartarus begins to take shape, because these punishments do not simply hurt, they endure. They are not moments of consequence, but conditions of existence. This raises a question that mythology rarely answers directly. Can an action, no matter how severe, justify an infinite response? Human understanding of justice is built on proportion, on the idea that consequence should reflect cause, that punishment should eventually conclude. But Tartarus operates outside of that framework. It introduces a model of consequence that does not scale, does not end, and does not allow for change. There is no redemption, no learning, no evolution, only continuation. And in that continuation, the original act that led to the punishment becomes almost irrelevant, overshadowed by the sheer magnitude of what follows. Over time, the crimes of Sisyphus, Tantalus, and Ixion fade into the background, while their punishments remain vividly defined. This inversion is significant because it shifts the focus away from morality and toward endurance. What matters is no longer what they did, but what they must continue to experience. In this sense, Tartarus is less about justice and more about demonstration, a display of what happens when power is absolute and consequence is unbounded. And yet, within this bleak structure, there is a paradox that has fascinated philosophers for centuries. If suffering is endless, if meaning is stripped away, if completion is impossible, what remains of the individual? Does the mind break, or does it adapt? Does repetition destroy identity, or does it create a new form of it? The story of Sisyphus, in particular, has been reinterpreted not as a symbol of despair, but as a question of resilience. If the act cannot end, then perhaps meaning must be found not in the result, but in the act itself, not because it is rewarded, but because it continues. This does not justify the punishment. It does not transform cruelty into fairness, but it reveals something else, something deeply human, the ability to persist even when persistence has no external value, the capacity to endure without promise, without recognition, without conclusion. In that sense, Tartarus is not only a place beneath the world, it is a mirror, one that reflects the limits of justice, the nature of suffering, and the unsettling possibility that the greatest torment is not pain, but the absence of meaning.